Welcome back, everyone, to another year of the Swampy Coliseum podcast. Oh, man, we're back from the summer. How's it
Oh
going,
yeah,
Nathaniel?
it's going great. This is probably one of the biggest seasons that I've been like most excited for that I can like remember.
We're definitely excited to look into it and watch everything that's going to be going on this year in college football. Once again, that's Nathaniel Gilmore.
What's
I
up?
am Andrew Hudson. We're coming to you as college football fans, loving to watch the game, loving to follow the game, and we're just going to talk a little bit about what's going to go on this year. We're coming off the off season, coming off of a good summer, and we've got some good stuff for you today. We'll give a little recap, focus on our favorite teams. We're called the Swampy Coliseum for a reason. Swamp, go Gators! I got my Gator Cup with me today. My my national championship hat hopefully can give us some luck this year. Of course, Nathaniel, big USC Trojan guy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Looking
Wearing
forward
my
to it.
safety.
Looking forward to a new conference.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Big Ten. That's yeah. This is gonna be it's gonna be big. I think Big Ten, SEC is just completely loaded. And I think USC going into the Big Ten, they've started to beef up, and it's a really physical conference. You're going to be facing teams like Iowa,
Hmm.
which can't play a lick of offense, but they got some big boys. So it's going to be interesting. I think yeah, USC did a great job of kind of filling out the the defensive side coaching wise. Finally, finally got rid of Alex Grinch. I think we talked about it even last year during the thing. Just he he was just such a hindrance, and I think going all out, getting Danton Lynn, who is the defensive coordinator over at UCLA, stolen from our rivals. Greatest feeling ever. Stole their best two defensive players. Getting Kamari Ramsey. Yeah, getting just a bunch of staff members. Eric Henderson, who is best friends with Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald pretty much said he made him who he was, and
Hmm.
we get Aaron Donald out at practices, so that's going to be fun. Getting Taylor Mays is going to be an assistant defensive backs coach. Maybe we can put some people on spikes this year. We got the head coach from North Dakota State. He's just going to be a linebacker coach, and I mean, I think that's big. Doug Belk over at the secondary. Yeah, defense just got retooled coaching wise and player wise, so it's hopefully that's the cure. Hopefully, we're not going to be in the hundreds for defense this year, but I think they're kind of getting things ready. They're going to have a big test, LSU week one, September 1st
Hmm.
in Allegiant Stadium. So, yeah, I think, yeah, expectation wise, I think on the high end, probably 11-1 season. Prob- Definitely going to slip up somewhere. Low end could definitely see a 7-5 again, a 6-6, where every single big tough team we face, we just get absolutely ran through. We got teams like Penn State that's at the Coliseum. We're playing Washington with Jed Fish at head coach. We're going to the Big House as our first welcome to the Big Ten moment. So mean, there's definitely a lot of trap games, but we're still playing teams like Rutgers, UCLA, Utah State, But so it's a tricky schedule, but a lot of breaks there, definitely.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting year for sure. And not only that, you're in your first year after Caleb Williams.
Yeah,
Miller
yeah.
Moss looks like
Oh,
the
he's
future. What are your
he's gonna
thoughts?
be so good. Miller time, it's Miller time. He's gonna be so good. I think he's gonna be able to run the offense in a way where Caleb Williams he's going to do great. He's going to be the next Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be amazing in the NFL. But Miller Moss is going to actually run the offense like it's supposed to be run, using tight ends, being able to quick pass, slow the game down. I mean, Caleb Williams, he just ran around, made our offensive line kind of back off and be like, all right, can we, be holding these guys, on the low, or, if he's running around, get more holding calls. It's tough playing hero ball like 24/7. So I think being able to play within the system, you're going to get the running backs more involved. We have an insane wide receiver group. I think we have Zachariah Branch, which I feel like most people who follow college football knows, but we have watch out for Jacoby Lane. He's going to be a dog.
Mm.
Watch out for Makai Lemon, Deuce Robinson. Both those guys are going to be really good. So I think the offense it's Lincoln Riley. The offense is going to be really good, and I think the defense is finally going to catch up to it.
Yeah, that's the hope. That's the hope. Always have the offense, can't have the
That's
defense to
yeah,
meet up.
yeah.
So
That's the 11-1 speaking right
that is, I get that for
now.
sure.
The
Well, there will be no 11-1 talk for the Gators. Trust me. We're coming on this year, as many of you have probably seen, potentially the toughest college football schedule of all time. We are talking about, let me run you through the schedule real quick. First of all, if I say that your second easiest game is UCF, you're not looking great. That all the pundits have talked about it this whole year, starting off the year with Miami. We've got Texas A&M. I'm just talking ranked teams right now. 19 Miami, 20 Texas A&M, 15 Tennessee. Finishing off our season 5 games in a row. Number 1 Georgia, number 4 Texas, number 13 LSU, 6 Ole Miss, and 10 Florida State. I mean, it's a gauntlet to go through at the end of the season. Year 3 under Billy Napier, it really makes for an interesting matchup, and we'll talk more about it next week. But the Florida Miami game, seeing two teams that are really in a similar position, Miami with Mario Cristobal, the Gators with Billy Napier, going into season 3, that's been a little disappointing, but hopefully we can turn it around this year. Graham Mertz is back, very efficient, had a very good year last year. Obviously, had a big loss in Trevor Etienne, who we lost to Georgia, which was very hard to see. But Montrell Johnson coming back at running back. Our defense really seems to hopefully be in a better place. We had a defensive guru come in to help our coordinator. We kept our D coordinator Armstrong, but he has this older, wiser voice over him now. He was one of the youngest D coordinators in college football last year, so hopefully they can bring some consistency to the program this year. But offense, we need playmakers. Our O line is hopefully stronger than it's been in the past. We need guys to make plays around Graham Mertz, though. And so that'll be the big question as we go into this year. Trey Wilson is overall, I'd say, our best player, wide receiver who can kind of do it all. But this year is questionable. It's hard to even put high expectations on Napier this year because the schedule is so tough. I think if I'm given a highs, lows, if I'm given what expectations we could see, I'd say on the high end, probably 8-4. Looking at this schedule, I mean, there are just so many games that we would be picked to outright lose for sure. And
Yeah.
to be 8-4, we've got to make upsets. So I'd say 8-4 on the high end, and we could even flip it and probably see 5-7 on the low. I don't want to say 4-8, but
Yeah, that'd be
I'm
that'd be
I'm
tough
gonna,
to say as a fan.
I believe we were 4-8 during one of my years in college, and it was not a fun year. So I'm gonna keep it at 5-7. But we're gonna have to play well. We're really gonna have to play well in order to have success in this season, which is always the case in the SEC, and even more with how the SEC looks now. Let's talk some conference realignment because our world has changed in college football. SEC, Big Ten, Big 12, ACC. That's mostly it. Then you have we have the Big Four, and then the smaller conferences. What are your thoughts on how the conferences have shaked out to this point, Nathaniel?
First of all, I'd like to say my thoughts and prayers towards the Pac-12.
Mm.
It has sustained me fun nights being on the West Coast and still watching games
Yep.
almost 11 p.m. midnight, watching UCLA and Stanford duke it out, watching Colorado and Arizona State locked in a 55 to 53 duel. It's
Nothing better.
Yeah, I mean, apparently they're having their conference championship, like week 3, week 4, when the only two teams, Oregon, Oregon State and Washington State, duke it out. But I mean, sad to see it go, and it's kind of sad to see kind of where you can kind of see where college football is going. But I think looking right now, Big Ten, it's looking like the Big Ten SEC is going to be the two big powers. I mean, the Big Ten has what, 18 teams,
Mm.
which is absurd. Like, imagine telling yourself, like, your 2010 self, like, hey, in 14 years or whenever in the future, Big Ten's going to have 18 teams, SEC going to have around the same amount. And then it's the Big 12 and the ACC trying to pick up all the pieces so they don't get left behind. And I mean, if everything continues the way it kind of looks, I mean, you might be seeing a two conference NCAA, I mean, college football with the group of five kind of getting pushed to like an FCS type, stage. They might have their own playoff. I know they had some talks about that recently where will they have their own playoff? Will they have like an NIT type thing?
Right.
Yeah, and we'll see. I think it's going to be weird seeing Texas and Oklahoma kind of in the SEC now. And you get to see Texas A&M Texas again. I think that's going to be kind of a reignition, reignited rivalry. I think that'll be a lot of fun. But I mean, it'll be fun. It's going to be a lot better matchups week in and week out. I mean, you're you're getting the short end of the stick where you get to play just absolute monsters every week.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're seeing this change come in. To give a little recap of what's going on, the ACC has 17 teams now. That's gross for me to say. But of course, the most Atlantic Coast teams possible, Cal and Stanford, along with SMU. No subtractions from the ACC. In the Big 12, we've got 16 teams now. They added Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah, obviously losing Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC. That now has 16 teams. And the Big 10 has gone up to 18, adding Oregon, UCLA, your USC Trojans, and the Washington Huskies. So just totally different. Uh, Regional does not matter anymore, except most
Yeah.
really SEC still keeps it. At least their goal is to keep it to states that are still touching each other. So they've still done that, going all the way up to Texas and Oklahoma, which we already had Texas A&M in the first place. But yeah, it's a huge change. But we talked about this some last year, how the future is coming. Less teams in the highest level of college football. I mean, we already know there's only a few who can win the championship every year. I would say no
Yeah.
more than 10. So maybe we go down to a 60 team league at some point, make it this 12 or 16 team playoff and go from there. But we see craziness, and that brings us to this 12 team playoff as well. I mean, you mentioned that right off the top. What a crazy year of football we're about to watch. So many things have changed. And let's talk about this playoff. I'll give a review of this once again. We've got the four highest ranked conference champions will be seeded 1 through 4. Okay, and those teams will get a bye in the first round of the playoff. The fifth conference champion will be seated where it was ranked or at number 12 if they're outside of the top 12, which that's just sad for me to hear. Number 20, Tulane makes it in, jump them up to number 12, whatever it is. But non-conference champions ranked in the top 4 will be moved to 5 and so on. and yeah, they'll be in that 5 to 12 location in the final rankings. And the first round of the playoffs will take up, 5 against 12, 6 against 11, 7 against 10, and 8 versus 9. So, what are your thoughts, opening thoughts, and opinions on this new system?
I I don't know. I keep thinking back to like, was the BCS era truly the best era? I think, oh man, like just it's hard because you want to include everyone. There's always, you have those Auburn teams or like TCU, stuff like that just didn't make it in. And then we're going to the four team, and the four team had a lot of flaws. I mean, obviously what we just saw where Florida State, I mean, you're undefeated and you don't go get in over what, like two teams with losses on the record. That's always brutal. And then so we just keep going bigger and bigger. And like I think people think that if we keep expanding, we'll get, some of the little guys in, give them a shot, like teams like that one Cincinnati team or that
Right.
made it will get a shot, or, teams like UCF, stuff like that. But you got to think those are just such outliers. I think after the transfer portal, um, I think they just dropped something where you can have unlimited staff members on the field now. So like these teams are just gonna these big teams are gonna start stripping all the players, all the coaches from the little teams, and then we're gonna see 1 2 years of Tulane, Liberty getting in, and they're just gonna get waxed.
Yeah.
And I think it's not going to be an opportunity for someone like South Carolina or like these smaller schools and like these bigger conferences to get a shot. I think it's going to be, oh, Georgia lost 2 times. They still get in the playoffs, and they can go on a Cinderella run. You can get, oh, Texas or Oklahoma or, these big brand name teams. They didn't have as good of a season, but since, 1 2 losses against better teams and they can manipulate the standings however they want and they can get all these big name teams in, I think it's going to be amazing football to watch. I think it's going to be, you're going to have insane matchups, and I think the product's going to be amazing, but it just feels a little dirty, in my opinion.
Yeah. And we talked about the necessity of it, just that there's been so much debate. You can think back to previous years where, I mean, going all the way back to BCS, where they're saying the best team sometimes was left out of the game altogether. And
Yeah.
so we never know what might have happened if another team gets a shot there. But we're just getting closer and closer to the NFL. That's all that's
Yeah.
happening. Trying to
Hmm.
look more professional, obviously paying the players. I mean, everything is just growing more and more to being designed off of the NFL. And there's no going back. This is just what it's going to be. I like it because I think it'll make for a lot more fun games to watch at the end of the year. The bowl games are mostly nothing now at this point, except for the
Yeah.
playoffs. So to allow for more playoff games to get more eyes on it, of course, more money for the big conferences and corporations. But it's what we want to watch, so we'll turn it on. So it's bound to happen. I'm excited to see if there can be some upsets in this playoff system. Uh,
Hmm.
I definitely still think that it's going to be dominated by the top four because they're gonna every year those are gonna be the power teams.
Yeah.
But definitely have a chance for opportunities that maybe we haven't seen in the past. Going off of that, our AP poll has just come out recently in just a week ago. August 12th, it was just 7 days ago this was released. So let's just walk through it. We'll give you the top 25 and talk about it a little bit. It's pretty much going to be the Gators' schedule, so just know that as we read it. Uh, that's all we're reading here. But starting off, our top four to start the year: SEC Big Ten, right? Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, followed by Alabama, Ole Miss. Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, Florida State. All right, that's our top 10 that we're looking at. A little change coming off of last year. I'll just finish it out. We've got Missouri, Utah, LSU, Clemson, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Miami, Texas A&M, Arizona, Kansas, USC, North Carolina State, and Iowa. Our top 25 to start the year. Any thoughts on that? We wanted to do a little overrated, underrated to start off this year. What do we think coming off the offseason?
I think I mean, it's obviously so hard to just like with no film, especially with the transfer portal where just every team is completely different. It's so hard to just kind of make a list. I agree with most of this. I mean, you have to put teams, some teams like Michigan, you have to keep them in the top 10. Like they have pretty new team. I mean, new coach who did coach a couple games last year against Ohio State too. New quarterback, but you have to keep them top 10. They just won the whole thing. But I mean, looking through, I mean, I think it's based on kind of half where, potential and some where, like Kansas, that's a lot of potential. Like you don't think based off of last year immediately they're, number 22, but also, what they've done. Like you have to give respect to Clemson. It's Dabo Swinney. He's going to be a top 15 team, even though they didn't really look like it the most part. But you have to have, faith that they're going to, figure stuff out.
Right.
I think overrated, I want to say, I mean, I want to say Michigan, but again, they won the whole thing. So you have to give them props. But I think Utah, think as a team, I don't think they're a top 15 team, but they're going to look like it against the Big 12. And I don't think the Big 12 is going to be that good. There's going to be a lot of chaos, but they're going to have an easy time. And I think if they slip into the playoffs, I think that's going to be a team that's going to get exposed really quickly. I think they're every time they go against, rough teams like big teams, like Big Ten teams, SEC teams, you really get exposed that their skill players just are never enough. And I think underrated team, I think Oklahoma State. They again another Big 12 school. They have, I think, one of the most returning production coming back. They have the best running back and Ollie Gordon coming in. And I think they're gonna surprise. It's a veteran team. I think they're making the playoffs. I think they're winning the Big 12.
Wow. Big words there. I mean, we're gonna get to our picks in a little bit, which will be
Oh,
interesting.
sorry, a little spoiler
Oh,
alert.
no, yeah. Oh, we love dropping in spoilers here. Well,
Got it.
the biggest question mark, or maybe the most interesting team to watch this year, will be Alabama.
Oh
The king is gone, right?
yeah. Hmm.
Saban has retired, and they're moving on. And to see what this team looks like is going to be interesting to follow the whole year. Kalen DeBoer, obviously, looking at his coaching history, amazing. His
Just
record,
wins.
no matter where he's been, he just wins. Obviously, coming off of a playoff performance last year with Washington. Now taking over Alabama, Jalen Milroe is back. They've lost some key pieces, they've gained some key pieces. I'm excited to see what it's going to be. So, all that to say, I'm not moving them anywhere. I'm not saying they're over or underrated. They're just going to be fascinating to watch as a new team uh, coming off of everything that's changed. My underrated team, I'm going to say one that you mentioned, it's Kansas. They're coming back with Jalen Daniels, who is a star. Even though he might not do anything in the pros, he is a college football player. And in that Big 12, like you mentioned, I think Kansas is going to have a chance to make some noise and finish, I'd say, definitely ranked higher than 22. But they're going to be fun to watch if anyone watches the Big 12, but they're going to be fun to watch. And it'll definitely be interesting. The thing about the SEC, as we jump over there, is someone's got to take the losses, right? There's just so many good teams that someone's going to have to lose. It's easy to question Ole Miss. They've got Jackson Dart coming back, Lane Kiffin, a very good coach, but can we really trust them in the strength of the SEC? How about the two new teams, Oklahoma and Texas? Can they stand against this new high-powered SEC conference that they're coming into? Like we're gonna have to question what it is. All that my overrated man, I've been back and forth on who the overrated team is gonna be. It's so tough. And my thought is because this is how it always ends the year. And in a similar sense with the SEC, the Big Ten has a lot of strong teams now. I'm going to say my overrated team is Penn State. Penn State, they've got Drew Alar back. They obviously have, it seems like the same team every year. They're pretty good. They end up with 3 or 4 losses, and they're nowhere close to the playoff. Well, this year they obviously have a bigger chance at getting into the playoff, but I just don't think they're gonna stand the test week after week, and I don't think their talent is good enough to hold up with those others in the tops of the Big Ten, as well as in the other conferences. So I don't think they're gonna finish the year at number 8 for sure. I'm not even sure if they'll make it into the playoffs. So they'll be my overrated. Um, but
Yeah.
man, what a fun season this is going to be watching everything falling out in college football. That takes us to what we've been talking about already, the predictions. Okay, playoff predictions. Did you have our results from last year available
Oh
to,
yeah,
to
yeah.
tell us
Let
about?
me.
Tell
Here
me
we
what
go.
what do we have last year, Nathaniel?
Okay, first I would like to say I was also debating between Utah and Penn State for overrated.
Yeah.
I don't think Penn State's going to be that good this year. But back to last year, um, back to the 4 team. It was a little easier. We could just throw out 4 teams, 3 champions, maybe 4 champions. Thought it was supposed to be easy. But here's your picks. You had Michigan 1, Georgia 2, Florida State 3, and USC just sliding in at 4.
Mm,
Um, got one right. They won it all, but you did say Georgia was going to win.
I
So
did pick
do we
Georgia.
count that? I don't really know. I didn't do much better. I had Alabama 1, which they made it. They lost first round. USC 2, high hopes. We got a Holiday Bowl win. Georgia at 3. Obviously, they couldn't make it because Alabama made it, and Alabama whole Texas situation, which I had Texas also. So I had 2 out of 4. Neither of them made it too. So I mean, who won that? Who knows? Oh, I also had USC winning it all. So
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't I mean, when you got 4 teams you're throwing in there, it's tough, but not too bad, not too great for us. But now we've got 12 teams, and we'll really see what we can do here. I'll go first. Let me see my teams here. I'll pull it up. So, like we said before, the top 4 have to be the highest ranking conference champions. So, no same conference in the top 4. I've got Georgia as my number 1 lasting through the year. I think they'll have the strength to still be called the number 1 team at the end of the year. Oregon 2, taking down the Big Ten. Clemson 3.
Ooh, okay, I
I'm gonna
like
have
that.
Clemson taking down FSU to win the ACC. And then, like you mentioned, I have Oklahoma State winning the Big 12 at number 4. Shuffling from there, uh, I've got Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Michigan as my 5 through 8, and then Alabama, Ole Miss, FSU, and highest my highest ranking fifth conference winner will be Boise State. I've got it number 12. So again, Georgia, Oregon, Clemson, Oklahoma State winning the top 4 conferences. Then Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan, Alabama, Ole Miss, FSU, and Boise State, giving us, I'll add, our first four games being Texas, Boise State, Ohio State, FSU, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, and a rematch,
Ooh,
Michigan, Alabama.
rematch. Did you plan it that way?
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at. And I gotta give you champion, don't I?
Oh yeah, yeah. We have to go champ. We have to go champ. We don't have to do a championship game. I think that'd be
Sure.
way too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot to go through. Um, yeah, man, this is tough. Um, we got definitely potential rematches going on in this scenario. I wouldn't doubt if we have one or two rematches during the playoff
Oh,
in the season.
100%. It
Um,
has to happen.
yeah, there's so many teams from similar conferences coming back in it. Man, can they do 3 out of 4 years? Can they do 3 out of 4? Here are my thoughts on Georgia. I hate picking them. Okay, the Florida Gator that I am. Carson Beck, though, I mentioned him last year. He's a Jacksonville guy. Love watching him play. Uh, man, they have so much talent, and they're coming back off a season where they're saying we let it slip. You know,
Yeah, 100%.
and I would say a lot of people would say after losing to Alabama, if Georgia got in the playoff, they very well might have won the whole thing anyway.
Oh yeah.
Coming off of it, I've got to stick with Georgia. Georgia is my pick for a national champion in 2024, 2025.
Ooh.
I
Two
know.
years in a row going George. Are you just trying to jinx them? Is that what you're doing here?
Hey, either way is good for me,
Worked
I gotta say.
worked last year. Wait, let's see. What was your pick? Did we have your pick 2 years ago? Did we do that? No, I don't think we did that. But if you picked them two, I mean, I guess they won 2 years
It's not that bad of a pick, I gotta say.
ago.
All right,
All
what's
right.
your thoughts? What do we have for our top 12?
Oh man. This is gonna be a very interesting one. I think it's just so hard. Like we have to see really where the committee, like, do they how many it's gonna be how many Big Ten teams get in, how many SEC teams get in.
Right.
Notre Dame's gonna, I feel like, gonna throw off the balance because there's probably gonna be two what you call it, two ACC teams. Big 12, I went with one. I don't think they're getting
Mm,
more than one in there.
yeah.
You could argue both Oklahoma State and Utah, but like I said earlier, I think Utah might slip in, but just they're not. I don't think they're a top 12 team.
Well,
But
Cam Rising, I heard, was just about to qualify for AARP, and so we don't even know if he'll last the year.
yeah, I mean he is a really good quarterback. I mean he smoked USC twice, broke my heart twice in 1 year.
Yeah.
But coming off ACL injury that kept him out an entire year, I mean, you don't know where he's at right now.
Yeah.
But without further ado, I know
Please.
the listeners, this is the only thing the listeners have been waiting for the entire time. So we're starting off Big Ten champion, Ohio State. I think
Mhm.
their defense is just nasty. And I think the only thing stopping them last year was Michigan. And
Mm.
Michigan took a drop off. I think their top competitor is going to be Oregon. In my heart, I can't have Oregon being that good because if they win a championship, we can't say thousands of jerseys, zero championships. So we're going
Mm.
Ohio State, number one. I think Will Howard is the perfect game manager for just all the weapons they have. And I think, they play Michigan, but I think their schedule relatively easy. I mean, they play
Right.
Oregon. I think they beat them twice in the championship. But yeah, we'll start off Ohio State. Second, SEC champion for the first time ever in their first year,
No.
University of Texas. Quinn Ewers
Texas.
is going. crazy. I think they have the experience. Steve Sarkisian has shown that they've gotten this team getting better every single year. I think they're gonna revisit the top four. I think they beat Georgia in the championship. I think it's gonna be a really good game.
Yeah.
But I think Texas has enough skill players around them, and I don't think Georgia restocked as well as people would hope.
Mm.
Three, I got Florida State. I think they beat Clemson. Oklahoma State, just like you said, I think they're going forward. I think that their experience is really going to help them. I think Notre Dame slides in at five. Then we're going Ole Miss. I think they can sneak out some wins. I love Jackson Dart, former Trojan, Fightahan. I think, yeah, their team really build themselves over the offseason through the transfer portal. Then I have Georgia at seven. And then I have Clemson at eight. I think they get in. I think they're better than Miami. Hands down. Mario Cristobal, I don't think is that great of a coach. Nine, Alabama. 10, Oregon. 11. We had to do it to them. 11, we're going USC. We're losing two games. We're 10 and
Okay.
2 when we're sneaking in at 11, and Liberty's going to be 12. So that gives us first round of Notre Dame Liberty, which I think would be a very funny game.
Sure.
The Catholics
Where's the Christians?
versus then we have Ole Miss USC. I mean, Jackson Dart revenge game. Who
Yeah.
knows against Miller Moss, who both of them got same class, both 4-star recruits going in, and Jackson Dart beat out Miller Moss um, in that ending of that horrible year that we will never talk about again.
Yeah.
Clay Helton. Then we have oh shoot, we have Georgia. I was gonna say Georgia, Alabama, but no, we missed that. Georgia, Oregon, and then a rematch from the days of old, Clemson, Alabama.
Wow. Throwing it back to 2016-17 action.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh man. Like, remember the days when we thought Clemson, Alabama would just be the championship game
Every year.
forever?
Every
Uh,
year. Yeah, so going before you give us our champion, let me look. We've got three of our top four are different.
yeah,
We've got three different conference champions that we picked. We both have Alabama in the nine spot, I will
that's
say.
interesting.
But a lot of similarities, some differences, which is, I mean, it's what you're going to get looking at the top 12s that people are going to put out there. There's not going
Yeah,
to be a ton of variation that we'll see,
yeah.
but
I got lost up in everything. I forgot to even give a champion.
well, so you're going to have to figure it out now.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I'm just going to, I'm just gonna pick you. I'm kidding. I'm not picking USC. I think Ohio State built up. I believe they are the best team in the country right now. I think Georgia and Ohio State are like that. I think Oregon is kind of in there, but wouldn't it be just amazing for Florida State to come in and just say, we should have been in here the whole time? But that's not going to happen. I think Ohio State's going to win
No.
it.
Oh man, you got Ohio State as your champion. Okay. Yeah, I like that. This is gonna be such a great season. Georgia is my champion. Ohio State is your champion. That leaves us just with one more pick to make,
Oh
as we did
gosh.
last year. And let's see what we picked last year as well. We made
Let me.
Heisman picks. We're gonna look again. We'll make Heisman picks coming off of last year. What do we? You have the archive there. What do we pick last?
I have the archives. So you can understand these picks. Obviously Jaden Daniels kind of came out of not nowhere, but no one really thought he was going to, and then he kind of won it. But so I had a pretty reasonable pick. I believe Caleb Williams would go back to back.
Mhm.
I didn't realize that our offensive line would degrade and our defense would suck so much that he'd have to play hero ball 24/7. I feel like he had an outside shot at 5, but or at least making it to New York. Andrew, he went with a real dark horse. First wide receiver to win it since Devontae Smith. He went with Marvin Harrison Jr.,
Did.
which in hindsight, I think in the moment and hindsight, I think not a bad pick. It's just he had a quarterback named Kyle McCord.
Al
Is
McCord,
that
yep.
yeah, yeah. The starting quarterback at Syracuse currently. I don't even know if starting,
I
but
think he
he's
won the
there.
job. I think he won the job.
Okay, I would really hope so.
But I mean,
So
with that, yeah, I mean, best wide receiver in the country, was a top pick of the Cardinals, and even with everything, he had a great year.
oh, he had an amazing year.
Just not enough to be the Heisman
Yeah.
Trophy winner. And I'll give you, looking back at the Heisman odds at the beginning of last year, Marvin Harrison was seventh in Heisman odds. Jaden Daniels right behind him in eighth.
There we go.
So even
So who's it?
even a lower thought person than Marvin Harrison. But let's look at I mean our odds. You wanted the odds for this year?
Yeah, I was gonna say who's 8 because I'm just gonna pick.
Five, six, seven, eight. We got. How about go back to back? We got Garrett Nussmeier.
Oh, disgusting.
Can LSU go back to back Heisman Trophy winner quarterbacks? I don't think so. But I'll give you. I went first with the playoffs. So let me.
Oh, so you're
Who have you already made your choice?
I'm between two.
Okay.
You probably know the first one.
Is it
You
Miller
might
Moss?
you might know both of them. Maybe. All
Is it
right.
Miller
So
Moss and Zachariah?
okay, I'll be realistic. Zachariah Barnes is not. I think he needs to develop more as a receiver. I mean, he could be Reggie Bush 2.0, but Miller Moss, I think outside shot. I don't think he's going to win it, but I think he is going to significantly climb the charts. It's kind of disgusting and outrageous and
Hmm.
mind-boggling that Garrett Nussmeier, who, in all senses, him and Miller Moss are practically the same person at this point. Same stories. Stayed, had a Heisman quarterback in front of them, and then they get the job after. But one's 8 and the other one's like 25. But I digress. I think I think Nico, Maleva, I
Sure.
believe that's how. I think he has an outside shot. I think he's gonna do really well, but I gotta go with my boy Quinn Ewers. I think this is his chance to shine. I think the other two in the odds back. I think I just don't want to go with Carson Beck because I can't have a Georgia quarterback in my mind winning a Heisman. Dylan Gabriel, he's just going to be a check down guy, which didn't really happen over at Oklahoma, and I think that's why they shifted gears. But I think Quinn Ewers, this is his year, and they reloaded with options, and I think he's just gonna slice and dice the entire year.
Yeah. Okay. Quinn Ewers is your pick. You had him doing well. I mean, I think we can't. I don't know that the Heisman Trophy winner can come outside of a playoff team. I
Yeah, no, at this point,
It's
no
got to
shot.
be a playoff team. So we've got to factor that in when we consider who we're going to pick as our Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, looking at the teams, a guy top of the charts right now is Carson Beck. I just don't think Georgia plays the game to win him a Heisman. You know, last year he had mid 20s touchdowns, 7 interceptions. You know, great for what they need, but not for winning the Heisman. I would say. Obviously, Dylan Gabriel is the name out there because he's on Oregon, you know, slinging around the field. They're a top ranked team that everyone expects. Your boy Quinn. I don't. You were mentioning before. I don't have big thoughts on Will Howard. I think he'll, similar to Mikal McCord. I think he'll do the job, and you'll get them for the most part where they need to be. We'll see if they can make it all the way through the year, but their team is so talented. I think they can carry it all the way through. Looking at the rest of the teams on here, I don't trust some of them. Jackson Dart is that guy you would want to hope for, but again, not sure about how he'll do this year. Jalen Milrow, I don't trust to be consistent all year to do it. Man, I'm just throwing out so many names. My thing with Dylan Gabriel is it's so rare to start at the top of the odds
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
actually win it. And so looking at the list we got, my Heisman Trophy winner is going to be Jackson Dart.
Let's go.
I'm going Jackson Dart. I mentioned before, I don't even know if I trust him that much as a team, but man, the stats that he can put up in Lane Kiffin's offense. I know you love him, your old USC guy,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and he's coming back. In college football, we don't have a ton of returning quarterbacks. You picked one for your Heisman winner, Quinn Ewers, and I'm going to go Jackson Dart. I think they have the strength and the team around him to put up great numbers, and if they make it into the playoff, which I think they will, I see him having a chance of winning a Heisman Trophy. So my thought is we're gonna have someone go off like we saw
Yeah.
last year with Jaden Daniels. In previous years, it's just statistical craziness going on.
Hmm.
So that would be my expectation, and those are our picks. Okay,
Oh man.
to go over it again, national champions. I've got Georgia once again, and I have uh, I have Jackson Dart as my Heisman Trophy winner. For you, you're picking Ohio State as your national champion and Quinn Ewers as your Heisman Trophy winner. Whew,
Yeah. You
man.
think it's funny that we both pick our champions that we picked are like in the conference of our respective teams.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, like we said, it's going to be cross pollination. You
Yeah.
know, we say that it's getting more like the NFL. Last year in the NFL, Lamar wins the MVP, but Mahomes wins the championship.
Okay.
So it's really for the most part a regular season award. So that's what
Hmm.
it'll come down to. But we'll crown a champion after this. We're excited. Oh, you know what? We forgot our last thing.
Oh man.
We'll do this real quick because there's not a ton to talk about. But first game, first game, we're
Oh
going
man,
to
so exciting.
Dublin, Ireland, to watch FSU Georgia Tech.
Oh
Man, we're
man.
off the air. We're talking a little bit about this matchup with uh, obviously FSU coming off of an undefeated regular season and conference championship, having to retool a little bit, losing a lot of starters, and obviously Jordan Travis. DJ Uyunglele, one of our favorites, is on his third team, second in the ACC. And yeah, can he carry them to a good season? We think so. But they're taking on Georgia Tech. And Haynes King, they obviously, he has a history. They had their crazy win against Miami last year that everyone
Oh
talked
yeah.
about. Interesting matchup to start the year in this week zero situation. So we got one game to pick, everyone. Hopefully we can get it right. Nathaniel, let's start it off. What are your thoughts?
Oh man. I think yeah, like you're saying, Haynes King, man, like had that crazy game against Miami. I think a Haynes King memory that will always be seared in my brain was when he was with Texas A&M and they were what 2 yards away from beating Alabama.
Mm,
And he threw a pass about 4 yards short of the end
mm,
zone. Will he have the magic? He's a little older. That was what 3 years ago.
mm.
Will he have the magic to pull off another upset in Ireland? Fun fact: what the last game in Ireland, Northwestern won the game, and they never won a game after that
Oh
season.
no.
They were 1-0 in Ireland, and they were 0-11 in the United States of America.
Mm. Yikes.
A little fun trivia. Kind of derailing from the point, but I think Florida State, I think the line's like -11. It should be
Right.
higher. I think Florida State's gonna. It's a gritty Georgia Tech team. They have a lot of speed. I can attest on College Football 25, they have insane speed. But I think Florida State just has too many playmakers. I think Norvell has that team running, and it's the epitome of a transfer portal team. And I think the talent's just going to be too much.
Yeah, unfortunately, I agree with you. Um, Mike Norvell is a great coach. Ever since he came from Memphis, they had a rocky start, even losing to Jacksonville State a couple years ago. But man, they've turned the tide. Like you said, he owns the transfer portal, and we're thinking they're going to have a really solid year. So FSU is my pick as well over in Ireland. Fun to get the season started, and we'll have a full slate of games for you next week. We'll have more information coming off of what we've seen over the FSU Georgia Tech game. We'll talk about the upcoming matchups, continuing on what we're excited to see. Thanks for tuning in for this first week of the Swampy
Oh
Coliseum.
yeah.
We're back here for another year, and we'll see you next week. For Nathaniel, I'm Andrew, and we'll talk to you later.
Peace.